Hello, folks. Welcome to Education Matters. Today we have a special guest. We have Victoria Sullivan with us. And Victoria will let us know how that those election results went. And I know it was a tough one.
It was a tough one. Every vote counts. So I won in the election by 2 votes. So Steve Stefanik had asked for a recount. We went up, and in the end, I won by 3. So when you don't want to get out and vote on that rainy day, every vote really does count, especially in the local elections. So just thank you for everybody who supported me, and I'm really looking forward to getting down to work.
That's great. Up in Concord.
Yeah.
We appreciate that voice there from the constituents of Ward 8.
9.
I'm sorry, Ward 9.
You're in my ward.
I know it. I think I was thinking the Flotario.
Right.
8 and 9 in Litchfield. And also, I'm sorry, Barbara.
Barbara Shaw, yeah.
Barbara Shaw is going to be with you in Concord.
Yes, she will.
Yeah, and to bring her experience there.
And she's already reached across the aisle and reached out to me, so I'm really looking forward to working with her.
That's great. Okay, great. Okay, so here this week we're going to be talking about the Parents Update. It's been a month now since you and Patrice have come on, and certain things have happened in the schools, and you know, we had the assessments that went on for the last month, and the horrors about that for some students, and you know how the parents are feeling about that. I mean,
yeah,
you must
it's the excessive assessments, and now, so my son went up to one of the school board members, and he's feeling very frustrated because when these assessments come out, he's not really sure what's an assessment, what he's supposed to be, what's a test, what he's supposed to know, what is it like if he doesn't know something, when is that okay? Because on the assessments, it's okay. On regular testing, it isn't. So now he's confused where if he finds a problem that he's struggling with, is he supposed to know it? And he's getting very frustrated about not knowing it. Or is it something that he hasn't been taught yet, so that's okay that he doesn't know it? Do you understand? So that's causing him a lot of anxiety and frustration. And he went up to one of the school board members and said, I'm really struggling. Like I used to be an A student. I'm becoming a B student. It's every time I see a test, I'm just getting anxious. And the school board member said to him, but you can try harder, can't you? You can try harder. And he said, how do I try harder on something I have not yet been taught? And his only answer was to pat him on the head and say, but you can try harder. So when you have children who really want to succeed, who really put their best foot forward, but they're so frustrated they start to give up, that is not a good sign for our schools. No. And he's not the only one. We hear about it across the board. And we have Kelly Timboris, who came forward in the paper on Rich Gerard's show, on Joe's show, and speaks to the fact that she has done more testing than teaching. Far more testing than teaching. So it's frustrating for the teachers. I have to say one thing that struck a chord with me during her interview with Joe. I think it was Ed that may have, Ed Saspienza, that may have asked her, so with all this testing, how come you just don't say, we're not going to do it anymore? And she said she could get written up for insubordination. Yep. So we entrust our children to these teachers for 6+ hours a day. And we think that they will use their best judgment to protect them. And now we're finding out that if they see something that they disagree with and they try to protect them, they can lose their job.
Right. She said exactly, I see anxiety. I see, she said, I see anxiety. I see
upset bellies.
Tummy aches.
Yep.
And tears.
Yep.
I see tears. So she just can't protect them.
And she said the light goes out. And that struck me too, the light goes out. Because I think for most teachers, they try to turn on that light, that excitement about learning. And when you have them there and then you hand them yet another test and you see them go, oh.
Yeah.
And you know you've lost them.
Yeah.
Well, probably for the day, because it takes a lot for kids to readjust and come back. But and she can't protect them. Now they're choosing between providing for their family and protecting your child. So that's not a good place for them to be in. And we shouldn't be putting them in that position.
It doesn't say much for the administration.
It really does not.
Where are they getting their marching orders for all of this? All right, the buck stops with
them.
Superintendent
Yes.
Livingston in this district, and David Ryan.
Yes.
So, I mean, she didn't quite go as
Karen
far.
Burkish. There are a lot of people who are not very happy with the way that she's handling the special education. And
Oh yeah, the special ed is the vulnerable
right.
in Common Core.
Right.
It doesn't really cater to them, and especially the ones at the bottom, or the ones that really don't have any skills.
And when I see, this summer, many of us came out, including yourself, and we spoke at the school board meetings, and we said, hey, this is what we're seeing happening all across the country. We do not want this in Manchester. Don't make our kids go through this and be an experiment for education. Let's not do this. Dr. Stotsky wants to give us her standards without a charge to the city. We had the New Hampshire state standards. Now, if you were going to hand something to the teachers and say, take this and make it better, wouldn't that be the more reasonable choice, since they knew them inside out and backwards? They knew where the deficiencies were, and they had the material to back up those standards, where they don't have the materials for
But the Department of Education has signed on to the Common Core state standards from the National Governors Association.
I love the word state shoved in there, because it had nothing to do with the states.
Right. And so it's top down. There's no doubt about it. And there's a lot of money at stake.
Right. And we have to get away from federal money, because it never works out for the children, ever. The food program, the education, ever.
Right.
And the fact that we keep doing this to them, the most vulnerable among us, that we keep doing this to them, it's so frustrating. And like you said, the superintendent should have the courage to stand up and say, we're not doing this.
Right.
And as chairman of the board, so shouldn't the mayor. We were promised something completely different than we're seeing right now in our schools.
Well, our school board members, they're following the direction of Superintendent
I have to say,
Livingston.
Deb Langton, Arthur Beaudry. Arthur Beaudry gets beat up every meeting because he's standing up for the kids.
Yep.
Deb Langton is not afraid to stand up. I know Robin Dunphy has been really doing her research and reaching out to parents. And
Ross Terrio is trying, he's trying to juggle this circus act.
So,
but
there are a few voices, some louder than others,
Right.
but they're not being heard. Kelly was completely dismissed by the administration, which was awful. And the other thing that really troubles me, and I'm not going to make any friends probably with this comment, but here we go. At the school board meeting, you have the sea of red with the teachers with their contracts, MEA buttons. And every time the word contract was mentioned, there was a big shout out. I don't see that kind of support for Kelly when she came forward and was saying that this is abusive and we need to take away these standards.
no, they can't be identified with her because they don't want to be.
And yet she's coming forward
Ostracized.
saying, I'm getting emails, I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting support behind the scenes.
Right, behind the scenes.
And I think it's terrible that
Yep.
her colleagues are not standing up with her and taking a stand. And my hat's off to her, because she's been very courageous throughout
She's
all
a
of
second
this.
grade teacher at McDonough, I believe it is.
I think so.
Kelly
Tamboris.
right. Appreciate it, Kelly. Well, we can go on about the assessment, and we will do more shows in January about the assessments, and because now we're going to be coming into the mid-year assessments that Kelly was talking about. They've just probably completing their beginning of the year, and then there's the mid-year at the end of
they
December.
happen every week. It's every single week.
Because that's the formative assessments, they call it. And so that's all this benchmarking as the kids are being raised, their level of proficiency is being raised every week, supposedly, or the remediation that has to take place.
I understand there's a place for assessments and there's a place for testing. I want my kids to enjoy learning. I want them to like going to school. I want them to love learning. When the teacher said to me that the science that they're doing now for the younger children it's not appropriate for them. They should be doing hands-on stuff. Their hands should be getting into the mud. They should be creating things. And that's how they learn about
Not so much
science.
analytical thinking.
And they're giving them the analytical thinking that they're bored with. They don't really understand. And it's not interesting. If you watch kids, you put some Legos in front of them, they'll use their hands, they will build things, they will be busy for a very long time. And that's how they learn.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about it, so we'll get into that.
In the meantime, you've placed the assessment opt-out form on the Manchester Parents Against Common Core
There's several
Facebook page.
There's a couple of opt-out forms, and there's some online, in the web. Other states have as well. Yes, I have the one from the Thomas
Thomas
More
More.
Law Center. So obviously these are not yahoos.
No.
I mean, you can call me a yahoo. You can call you a
Call me
yahoo.
Yahoo.
You know. And the other form, that's the easy form, came from the state of New York, came from a school principal who used that form on the school letterhead for his students in his school to refuse the SMART, or they have PARC, the PARC assessment. So all I did was modify it and put SMART balance instead of PARC.
Right.
It's the same form as the one used in New York. And so if it was used there, what superintendents are telling us here that, oh, these forms are just bogus forms off the internet, you know, and dismiss them? You
Because-
cannot dismiss these forms, folks. The superintendents and the school administrators and Virginia Barry up there in Concord at the New Hampshire DOE. These are the parents' legal fundamental right to choose the education for their children. Period, end of story. But we'll get into a lot of that in January.
I think they've lost
all the
sight,
details.
They've lost sight of what their positions are.
Exactly. And so we as parents will push back and we will fight for our children because, like you just said,
No one else is going to do
no
it.
one else is. So, I mean, there's a lot with the special needs children who, you know, those parents just say, no, my child is not going to be put through that. Okay, I know that the anxiety level, or one of them says that, you know, he starts biting himself when he gets to that frustration and anxiety level. She's just not going to put her son through that.
And, you know, for every child that shows outwardly what they're going through, you have a multitude of children who don't. They just carry it, and the anxiety builds up, and, you know, they get the sick bellies, and,
Yeah.
you know, they start not wanting to go to school. And
Or the headaches, or
this is elementary school. I mean, for my kids, this is the beginning. This should be the fun part, the easy part for them.
Right.
You know, they need to learn, but they need to have
Right.
enjoy what they're learning.
Well, I think we should get on to the next topic, because we have a few topics here, folks, we'd like to get through for you today. We have the permanent lockdown situation. Want to go there?
Oh, God.
What did your son come home with?
He came home to tell me that the classrooms are now permanently locked. All the classrooms in the school are locked. I know that Robin Dunphy brought this up at the last school board meeting, and she did ask the superintendent why, if I had been told through people that worked in the building that this was Homeland Security had come in and this was what they had discussed. The superintendent said Homeland Security did not tell them they had to do that, but based on the way certain schools are set up, it might be the decision of the principal to make that call, so that some schools in Manchester would be permanently locked down. No notice came home. I only know because my children told me. And I do spend a fair amount of time in the school, and a lot of parents had noticed. We're hoping that because it's been brought to the attention of the school board now and the administration that there will be a change, and this won't. We don't want our kids imprisoned. Locking their classroom doors isn't going to keep the bad guy out. Sadly, the bad guys have access to things that go through locked doors, and we already have the front door locked. You know, if there's a vulnerable classroom that is very close to the front door, I could see. Like kindergarten classrooms often have a bathroom inside. They're pretty much contained in their little bubble anyway. But for the other students that have to leave and use the restroom, get a water, every time they leave, it's a disruption for the class because someone has to let them back in. And it's often a child. So anybody could be on the other side of that door. They're knocking, a kid just gets up and opens the door. So it's not a safety precaution. My concern, other than having my children feel like they're imprisoned all day, because I don't think that's I don't think turning them into victims is an acceptable way to protect them. My concern is, what if there really is a situation in the school and now you've got locked doors and kids that were in the hallway going from one class to another or going to the bathroom or whatever they could be doing in the hallway. Now they're locked in the hallway. They cannot get to safety. Yeah, so that makes them more vulnerable to me. Then teachers had in the past kept their keys in the door, and if there was a situation or a lockdown, they would just lock the door. And I think that there's plenty of time, plenty of opportunity for that.
For the most part, yeah, you'd hope. I don't know. I mean, you're on the inside. You know what that feels like, and
for me, it's heartbreaking because this should be someplace where they feel like they're safe. And I understand we live in a society where bad things happen, and no one wants to hear the words, you can't protect your children from everything. But the fact of the matter is, you know, usually the person doing the harm is someone that's already in the building. It's a student themselves. They're already locked in the school with your child. So the putting on more locks does not.
More security equals less freedom, and that's.
And I don't think we should be raising victims. I think we should be teaching them to be mindful of their surroundings. We should be teaching them to say, hey, come to me if you see something that you don't think is right, and make them a part of their protection. Make them a part of their safety, not just lock the doors and have them huddle in a corner. I don't think that's, it's
well, they don't put parents through the drills. They only put the kids. And from what I understand, they were only they were only utilizing the honors students last year in one of the drills. It was just the honors students. Well, what about the other students?
Right.
Who are maybe, why, are they less instructable?
Well, when they said they were going to start changing the way that they handled security in the schools, and I asked the parents could come in and we could be walked through the drills, because kids come home with questions, anxiety, they want to know what's going on. The news is horrible lately. So they're ramping up these drills, and kids are saying, is it because of ISIS? Is it because of this?
Right.
And
that somebody's coming after them.
Right, and if you don't know that they're ramping up these drills, you can't say to them, they're just trying to work out some stuff, don't worry about it. You're just in the dark as they are.
Right.
And I was told that they don't want parents involved because it endangers the children. Because what if a crazy parent went in? They don't understand that it's usually a child that does the harm. And they know the lockdown drills better than anybody else. They've been through them with the other kids. They know the times that the children are vulnerable. We're not approaching this from the right way. It's not the right course of action. We need to teach. There's a program called Alice, and I think I've mentioned that to you before. And it was after Columbine. Somebody, I can't remember if he was an officer or if he was in the military. He came forward with a plan that teaches the teachers how to fight back. So there's a lockdown, but then there's a procedure to get the kids out, get them to a safe place if they can, to teach them how to use what's around them to fight back. And other schools in in New Hampshire use that. We don't use that in Manchester.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's part of our...
There's actually a police officer in Merrimack who's doing a course in February that we could send some of our policemen to if the city paid for it, and then they could become trainers and they could train teachers and staff.
Okay, well, our school board members need to act and come together and decide these things.
I want my teachers and my kids fighting back. I don't want them to be victims in the corner of the room. It's not going to solve the problem. I want them to at least have a fighting chance if, God forbid, this ever happens.
Well, hopefully some of our teachers are armed. They need to be going through these safety courses or whatever, and training courses on how to defend the classroom or defend the school, or take out the bad guy. Or
there's a tactical training program that some of the schools are using where the teachers actually, no one knows who the teachers are. The administration might, but other people in the building don't. And they actually go through a type of police or military training. They go through psych evals. They go through the whole gamut. And then at the end, they are allowed to carry in the school.
Okay.
No one knows who they are.
Okay, well, that's all right.
But when you mention that to people, they think you're crazy because they don't want teachers in the school armed because guns are icky. So, I can't think of anything ickier than...
Yeah, you can't have it both ways and say, well, a locked door is going to protect the kids.
It didn't in Newtown.
And a gun isn't.
The doors were locked in Newtown.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't stop him.
Oh, okay. Incredible. Well, I think we came through most of this here. We've talked about Kelly already and her show with Joe Lavasser.
That was a great show. I hope people can pick that up on manchestertv.org. They have on demand, so you could rewatch that. As from last week.
I'm not sure if they have it, the public access on demand. There's too many of us for them to put up there, I think. That's why I put mine up separately, up on Facebook.
I've got it on the Vimeo before, which I think is the link to the from there.
Okay. Well, maybe it is
so
there.
Maybe it is.
Great. Well, if they haven't seen Joe's show last week, all the reruns, then...
if not, check out Deb's page, and she'll put it up
it's
there
on,
for
it's
you.
on Education Matters NH. It's on Manchester Parents Against Common Core.
Yep.
And I believe I put it on Ask the School Board.
Right.
Thank you, John Avard, for uploading that for me.
And I hope parents reach out to her and thank her, too, for doing that, because she really is putting herself on the line there. I didn't realize how much she was until she said she could be written up for insubordination. I really could not ever understand why teachers weren't speaking up more than on other topics, too, than they were.
Right. So, okay, what else is going on in the schools?
I don't know. I've been busy. So
Well, Patrice isn't here to fill in.
no, she's making muffins for the founders, which that's the Founders Academy is something I really want to.
I wanted that input
I know,
also.
I really want to.
Yeah.
I've met a few people who are actually children who are going to the Founders Academy who are really enjoying it. They really like it, and parents who are very glad to have them there. So
That's the Founders Academy
a Perimeter Road.
charter school.
Yep.
On Perimeter
They
Road.
do not use everyday math. They are not using the Common Core standards math. So, oh, speaking of Common Core, so
Yeah.
my son comes home with multiplication, and now instead of using the X multiplication symbol, do you know that they now use the asterisk? First time I've ever seen
Get
it.
it.
First year I've ever seen it. I said, I don't know what this says, and he said, well, that's for multiplication, the asterisk. So, and the only place you see that is if you use a calculator. So they're just
I
really
thought they used a dot. Wasn't it a dot for multiplication?
multiplication used to be the X.
Yeah, and then in a calculator, so they can use a dot also, I think.
I don't
I
know.
don't know, whatever.
I wasn't allowed to use calculators in school. That's how old I am.
So now we have the asterisk for the multiplication sign.
Yep.
Calculators don't have X's?
It's all about programming.
Oh,
Programming.
forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, he's making us feel like dinosaurs? Is that the purpose here? It's like, oh, things are new.
I don't know the purpose. I just don't understand what's wrong with regular math that we had that was good for everybody
Right.
for hundreds of years. I don't understand.
How's homework going? That's where you're seeing it in the homework, right?
It is. I'll tell you, there's a lot of math this year. Math is not my
That's
strong
fourth
point.
grade?
It's second grade, too.
Oh,
My
second.
second grader, he comes home with pages and pages and pages of math homework. And, you know, he gets frustrated, and it's really hard for me because I want to say, I don't blame you. I'm frustrated, too. Put it away. Let's go do something. But, you know, I have to make him go. I mean, they're like a full page like this of, 80 math problems. And he's got 3 of them in a week.
You know what?
And he's in second grade.
Just do what's reasonable.
It's
Just do what's reasonable. I mean, it's elementary school.
It puts parents in a very awkward situation because in the past I would have just said, "This is your work. This is what you have to do. Suck it up. It's only going to get harder."
But it might have been 5 or 6 or 10 problems.
And now when I look at it, and I think it's unreasonable, and and they do it as a grade level, as teams. So I can't really go to his teacher and say, I think it's unreasonable
Oh,
because
let's
she's
put it
working
in-
as a team.
Let's put it in a team. We have that pressure,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
You just write on the
'Cause
homework page, this was enough. He learned it. He
My
knows
son's second grade teacher is wonderful. I mean, if you're looking in the younger grades, I think especially, you're looking for somebody who, yes, she will teach them, but she will also take care of them as a person. And I've been so blessed that in my kids' school, they've always had teachers like that. They always took care of the person. So, and that just makes me think that this is so much harder for the teachers because it must be really difficult for them to see their kids struggle.
Right, right. I mean, Kelly Tambora, she was saying that, she sends homework home because she's required to.
Which is crazy.
But, she tries to, like, doing a reading assignment, 20 minutes.
Again, so all we heard for the Common Core, Manchester Academic Standards, which are really Common Core, was repeatedly, we're putting in the hands of the teachers, we trust the teachers, we're leaving it to the professionals. They never left it to the professionals. The more that comes out, the more you realize how limited the teachers are to actually be professionals. She has to give homework because she's required to. So if she covers everything she needs to cover in a day and she says, guys, you did a great job, no homework, she can't.
Not really.
Because she's required to give them homework.
Right.
Why?
And why does it have to be so unreasonable? Why so many problems? Why discourage the children? Why demoralize them? It doesn't make any sense.
There was a clip that I saw today, and I think Anne-Marie Banfield had it on, this woman who came here from China, and she was speaking against Common Core, and she was saying, I moved from China because of this. You Americans compare your children to the Chinese children. The Chinese children do not have the advantages that American children have. They're not allowed to be creative. They're not allowed to be individuals. And I can't believe that I am here. I moved here to give my children freedom that I'm no longer seeing in America. And that was one of the most powerful arguments against Common Core that I had seen. And it really does, when you hear the teachers, well, not teachers, but Kelly come out and say similar things, we really need to take a step back. We need to relook at how much power the administration has over our teachers and their ability to teach, because it's really being taken away from them. Now they have the flipped classroom. So you know what the flipped
I
classroom
heard about
is.
it, but I can't remember exactly.
Which will basically get rid of teachers, and then these
Oh, the
little
teachers as facilitators, right?
asterisks will be more important because the children's teachers will be the computer. So, yeah, so it will be a flipped classroom. So they learn everything they need to at home, and they just come in for extra learning with the teachers or extra guidance with the teachers. Like,
Or
so
the
their homework will
students
be
are
done in
teach-
school, and they'll actually be taught on computers at home.
Okay. Well, you know, the teachers are putting themselves in a precarious situation because eventually, if you're not needed, if teachers are not needed, then where are your jobs going?
Right.
Okay? Eventually. If you're going to be replaced by a computer or a robot or,
No, and-
or a camera, a monitor in the classroom, because we don't really need
That's-
a person standing there. We can have one person on the monitor covering maybe 50 classrooms.
A lot of colleges are going that way. You know, there's not a, you have the brick and mortar schools, but they also have the online courses that you can take. Your full education can be online without an instructor.
So why not in the elementary school or high school? We can have a monitor teaching. Listen
Yeah.
to the monitor.
And
Does that sound like Big Brother or what?
It's scary because, well, the other side of that is how much screen time do you want your kids to have? There's a big
That's another
push
thing.
to have technology in the schools. Our school, our PTA last year bought a bunch of mini iPads and Chromebooks for the kids to use in the library with the media specialist, which is once a week, which is plenty because these kids honestly know more about technology than most adults do. Now they want to have a push to have a laptop in every classroom. I mean, they have the laptops also in the reading lab, so they have that. How much screen time do you want your kids to have? I want them to have one-on-one relationships and personal interaction with their teachers. That's how children learn, not by sitting down and just being programmed. I think, and we're isolating them more and more. So if you have them in front of the laptop in these flipped classrooms and they don't have that human contact, where are we going to be as a society? As it is, how many times do you see the kids, like, you know, their thing in their face and they're texting away and they don't make eye contact with anybody?
No, they don't need to.
You know?
No, that's not a good thing. Anyway, we got 1 minute left, so folks can stay informed on New Hampshire Families for Education.
On Manchester Parents Against Common Core, which is a website that we
On
have on
Facebook.
Facebook, a page we have on
And we
Facebook.
have the Stop Common Core in NH. And, you know,
And keep an eye out, and I'd like to come back from time to time and talk about the legislation that's coming forward.
Great.
Because I know there are people, I have a bill that I will be presenting, and I know other people have bills that they'll be presenting for education and for parental involvement to protect
and parental
the kids.
rights,
Exactly.
and parental privacy,
Exactly.
student privacy, teacher privacy.
So
Well,
from time to time, I like to come on and let everyone
Great.
know what's going on so that they can make the phone calls to support those bills.
that'd be great. Okay, Victoria, we'll see you next time in a month from now to bring us an update in December. Actually, no, I'm on 5 weeks. We're going to be on in December the 5-week 5-part series for the Portsmouth Common Core series. So that'll be 5 weeks in December. So we'll see you in January.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, folks. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.